I'm going to start by reading a letter dated February 7th, 2024, to the Executive Council, their councils. I am pleased to nominate Leo Fama II to the position of Associate Justice of the District Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I am enclosing the nominee's resume for your convenience. Sincerely, Maura T. Healy. Now, we're going to start by having you introduce everybody you brought to the councilors. Introduce the councilors that are present first, and then you're going to introduce everybody, and then we're going to call you first witness. Okay? We have Councilor Duff, we have Councilor DePaulo, we have Councilor Jacobs, and we have Councilor Devaney present right now. The other councilors are on their way, and they'll be here shortly. And why don't you introduce everybody you have here to the councilors?
Sure. So to my left is my wife, Gina, my dad, Leo, my children, Jillian, Stephen, and Joseph. Behind me is my friend, Ray Amaru. And
All our friends.
all of our friends, right? Judge Farrell and Attorney Lawrence Fombata.
Very good. I neglected to introduce Councilor Ionello. All right, go ahead.
Well, thank you. You too.
I'm sorry, Grandma, what were you saying? You pointed something.
I said, I didn't know if you recognized this gentleman right here.
We did.
Okay.
We already did. Thank you, of course. All right. So we're going to call your first witness, who is Judge Farrell. Welcome back.
Well, thank you so much. I hear he missed the waffles. That is a tragedy.
He only had 5 days to respond.
It is, Judge,
A rite of passage.
we passed new rules recently. And don't forget the most important law we have in this chamber, the law of, go ahead.
Here, I'll just hand this in and step back. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, thank you for the honor of allowing me to appear in this honored chamber again to address you. I appreciate the gravitas of this room and the opportunity to be part of the history of the Commonwealth. And I would be remiss if I didn't say again to each and every one of you, thank you again for the job and the opportunity that you gave me 2 years ago. I'm very blessed. I also want to point out congratulations is due to the governor's legal counsel, and the executive director for the outstanding group of candidates that have been put before you for appointment to the district court. It was an all-star team. The governor hit a grand slam. I know them all. I hope that you will find them all to be as outstanding as I know them to be. And today I'm honored to be here with my friend Leo Fama, whom I've known for almost 20 years, both personally and professionally. And I submit to you that I am impressed by the quality of his character, his abilities, and his professionalism. Leo Fama will be an excellent judge. As an associate justice of the district court, the acting clerk magistrate of the Cambridge District Court, and the first assistant clerk in the Somerville District Court, I witnessed Leo Fama to be a skilled, trusted, and prepared advocate for persons accused of a crime, as well as for clients he represented in complex civil litigation. His reputation among my colleagues, members of the bar, and court staff is outstanding. He always demonstrates the understanding of the law and a demeanor that earned for him that deserved reputation and that will serve him well as a judge. When Leo Fama comes into the courtroom, we all know that this is a case that will be addressed with the utmost expertise, and you better be ready. I find Leo's skills extend to both civil and criminal matters equally. I was very impressed with his advocacy in a seminal case involving the district court and superior court jurisdiction in civil matters when the one trial system was introduced in the district court in 2004. A case he worked on called Sporonas dealt with the complicated distinction between a jurisdictional and a procedural amount for use in what was then the new civil jury trial system. 30 years of service as a member of the medical malpractice tribunals is very unique and very impressive. He's also published in Mass Continuing Legal Education in an article explaining the relationship between the district court and the probate court concerning Chapter 209A abuse prevention orders. And that, I promise you, is a critical and daily case type for us in the district court. Leo Fama simply is completely prepared for every case that we handle in the district court. He will step right in and be an asset to the court, and most importantly, to the public that we serve with all case types. Now, as you may have learned, Leo is an accomplished collegiate basketball player and volunteer coach. We share that passion for coaching young people. I have found a great correlation between coaching and the work we do as a justice in the district court. Many of our functions are to correct bad behaviors, to redirect people with support, and then to encourage them. It's a lot like coaching. Those are critical skills that Coach Fama will bring to the bench. You've also learned that Leo is blessed with a large and loving and supportive family. He does not take that for granted, and he understands the incredible value of family in our own personal successes. He also understands that the people we often serve in the district court do not have that same support, or their families are in crisis looking to the court for support. As a humble and devoted family man, appreciating our blessings and empathizing with people who do not have those same benefits, it comes naturally to Leo, and that will make him a compassionate and empathetic jurist. Attorney Fama understands the concerns of this council that you have concerning appointing judges who are empathetic, who will interpret the law, who understand that cages are not a treatment modality for persons who suffer from a mental illness, a substance abuse, or an alcohol dependence disorder. He knows well the consideration that needs to be understood for those young people in their developing minds who come before our court. He understands better than anyone what it means to be a lawyer trying to run the business of a law firm. He understands the importance of recognizing bias and treating all persons with respect in his effort to do justice. He will make you proud of your vote to support his nomination. Thank you for your consideration. I hope the council.
Thank you, Judge. Does anybody have any questions? Councilor Devaney?
Nice to see you. Hold on.
That's my-
Yeah.
Over 2 years, and I appreciate this room. It is an important day in my life and my family's life. And I get choked up about it because it meant so much, and I'm honored to be here.
Well, you came in at a very difficult time with the pandemic.
Right.
And, I thank you for getting through because it had to be hard, really.
The people in the trial court did a phenomenal job. We all learned that Zoom was not just that television show we watched, Channel 2.
Well,
Thank you.
you're my proud vote. Now, tell me, you have observed this nominee a lot. Is there one case that stands out?
I knew you were going to say that. I did, and that's why I talked about the Sperone's case. It was Sperone's versus Farina.
And we didn't talk before. I want you to know.
No, you like that. You like to identify a particular case. So this was a very complicated issue when the one trial system was introduced in the district court. We eliminated the remand and removal system. And all of these terms are not easy to understand, even for lawyers. To this day, lawyers still struggle with the procedure that they have to go if the procedural amount is greater than $50,000. The case needs to be dismissed at the district court and then refiled. There's a 30-day window for the extension of the statute of limitations. He taught me that. As the civil clerk, when I was in Somerville Court, he explained all of that to me so that it made sense, not just so that I would get it, but so that I could teach it to others. And I taught for over 20 years as part of the Clerks Education Committee through the Judicial Institute. So firsthand, he helped me.
Wow, that's amazing. What one quality comes to mind about this nominee that he brings to the court?
Our shared passion about coaching. I mean, he could tell you some great stories about working with inner city kids and using his own money to make sure that they can go participate in some tournaments that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And it's a time when we're able to take our avocation for sports and coaching and almost turn it into our vocation. I think you're going to find that comes naturally to him. That's a quality that I find I use every day in encouraging.
Your testimony is very valuable. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. The good work.
May I submit the written findings for your consideration?
You have part of the record.
The continuance was allowed.
Councilor Iannella?
She mentioned the pandemic. You know, a lot of lawyers these days, you know, work remote for that matter, and a lot of people work remote. What do you do? In other words, people have childcare issues, lawyers have to be here, there. I get a sense that most lawyers like to do things, you know, obviously get to a trial, but like to do things remote. What's your position?
I had an expert witness on a civil jury trial last week in Attleboro, appeared from Illinois. Didn't make that person travel, didn't make
I
the,
didn't necessarily mean that. I'm saying, I got a motion for a continuance, just say,
in your firm, it's allowed. So one of the, I would tell you that on the civil side, there's no reason to bring the lawyer in unless you're calling in the venere. So unless you're going to impanel, all of our work, whether it's a motion to dismiss or it's a summary judgment, motion to compel, all of that is done online. I believe it. It's also saved the state an awful lot of money, especially on the criminal side, where we're not transporting people with the sheriff, when we're able to remotely meet the institutions. And every single civil commitment hearing is done on the virtual platform. So there's no traveling between hospitals and the courts. The patients are able to stay right in the facility. We do our judicial settlement conferences virtually, and the lawyers, they're very skilled now at working in the breakout rooms. And all they need is an opportunity in a few minutes, and we give it to them. So I'm a big proponent. I know that Leo is also a proponent and appreciates the virtual platform. It's where we were going, but 20 years down the road. The pandemic got us there a lot sooner.
thank you, I appreciate it. I think you do a great job.
Work. Next, I'm going to call Attorney Lawrence von Bartha. Welcome.
Good morning and thank you, everybody. And before I begin, I just wanted to thank everybody on this side of the room for all that you do. This is a very important process, a very time-consuming process, and I know everybody who practices in the Commonwealth appreciates it. I have some prepared remarks, which I'm going to stick to keep myself on time. But my name is Attorney Lawrence von Bartha, and it is truly an honor and pleasure to be here today in support of Attorney Leo Fama, for the Governor's Council, and alongside all of the Fama family. I can say without hesitation, you will not find many candidates as ready to hit the ground running or as even keeled and compassionate as Attorney Fama. He's dedicated his life to the service of others and has done so with empathy, kindness, and skill, which makes him an excellent nominee for the judiciary. I've known Attorney Fama for almost 20 years, where he has easily been one of the most important mentors in my career. I've known him and his family since 2004 when I interned at his Everett law practice following my first and second years in law school. This was an important time in my professional path, as growing up I did not know any attorneys and had absolutely zero legal experience. I don't know if you knew that, but it turned out that interning at Attorney Fama's office in Everett was exactly what I needed, as it was a get your hands dirty type internship where he gave me the opportunity to meet with his clients, to answer phones, perform research, draft motions, and really attend every court hearing that you can imagine. And what I remember from those early days is walking into the court and Leo talking with everybody, from the court officers, the clerks, other attorneys, because that's how he is. He gets to know people, builds relationships, and then works with these people for years, oftentimes becoming their friends. And I have no doubt that this is going to transfer over to the judiciary as well. And he's going to be the exact same way, working with everybody in the building and helping justice be administered to the litigants who walk in every day. Following my graduation from New England Law Boston in 2006, I worked at 2 local firms specializing in real estate litigation and insurance defense. In 2017, I contemplated changing firms and contacted Attorney Fama and his brother-in-law, Al Faris, who encouraged me to open my own practice at their location in Middleton, Mass., which I did. Attorney Fama has helped me along the way ever since by providing guidance and really acting as a sounding board on many issues and situations on a daily basis. Having Attorney Fama practice alongside and next to me in our office has really felt like having a judge next door, somebody that I've been able to bounce ideas off of, no matter what the situation. He possesses such a wealth of experience and wisdom that I think can only be gained through years of covering such a mix of civil, criminal, transactional type matters, and that really gives him an excellent perspective to handle the wide variety of situations that are going to find their way into the district courts in Massachusetts. Attorney Fama is an intelligent, thoughtful, and approachable attorney whose reasonable nature will serve him well as a judge in the Commonwealth. I've known Attorney Fama to counsel a wide range of clients from low-income families new to this country facing just an unknown legal system with very limited sources and not a lot of knowledge as to how these things work. And also more successful business people in complex business litigation, many of whom seem to become his lifelong clients and sometimes friends. And I'll say, despite the high volume of legal work that Attorney Fama engages in, I've always been impressed with his ability to recall very specific details and nuances of situations, which I believe are critical skills for a judge. But above all, Attorney Fama's ability to relate and effectively communicate with people is what I find separates him from other attorneys. Being an attorney running a busy private practice is stressful, but Attorney Fama always handles his days with not only hard work, but also with levity and a smile. As you all just heard, Attorney Fama has been a longtime basketball coach, and I've known him to mentor boys, girls from the youth levels through high school and now college, helping them navigate the college process and also as young professionals now starting their own careers. As a volunteer coach myself, I think this speaks volumes to his character, as I know he's dedicated countless hours to youth programs, benefiting numerous young athletes and their families. And I think many of his former players and their families have become clients and now friends, which again, I think speaks volumes to how people view him in the community. Attorney Fama was recently asked to help coach a college basketball team by a head coach who had a long career in the NBA, which to me demonstrates Attorney Fama's reputation for his ability to effectively relate to people, to quickly earn their respect as a leader, all while navigating high-pressure situations full of emotion and unpredictable outcomes. I believe Attorney Fama will have the ability to administer justice in a fair and compassionate way, and will have the confidence in his abilities to make tough decisions. The Commonwealth is fortunate to have intelligent and compassionate attorneys like Leo Fama, willing and eager to dedicate themselves to the judiciary, and I hope the council wholeheartedly supports his nomination as much as I do. And I just want to thank everybody here today for listening to me and for having me.
Thank you. Councilor Devaney.
Thank you for coming. How many years did you work with the nominee?
I interned for him for 2 summers in the beginning of law school, and since 2017, we've been in the same practice.
So what is the most important thing that you learned working with this nominee?
I really think it's a totality of things where, as a judge, you juggle so many different scenarios and so many different people. And I think Leo really is a complete package in the sense that he is very relatable people. He's been on both sides of cases. He has a poise about him that I think attracts people to him and helps him work through tough situations that sometimes can get the best of people in terms of emotions running high, but he has a poise about him that I've never seen him lose his temper. I've never seen him lose control. But I've definitely seen him have tough conversations with people where sometimes you have to be direct, you have to counsel people on things they may have done wrong against your advice. And he has a great way about him that is enabled to be, I think, a very relatable and successful attorney for that.
Well, you were there with him every day. You saw when he was under stress and all the different things that he was asked to do at the same time, probably. And so you touched on that. His temperament. Tell us in a capsule, what is his temperament like that you observed?
I think anybody who knows him would say he's a very likable person, very friendly, but very caring. And I mean that in the sense that he will go above and beyond to help people who come into his office, whether it's paying clients or someone who's looking for advice. And I just think his even-keeled nature is exactly what people should look for when they're considering someone to be a judge. I haven't seen him lose his temper, and again, I think he can be fair, friendly, and direct at the same time, juggling all those traits, which I think are all very important for judges to have.
Your testimony means a lot. It's very sincere and heartfelt. I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I was gonna save the temper question for his wife.
That's my children.
At this point, we're gonna thank you for your testimony. We're gonna close the testimony for folks in favor of the nominee. And then I have to ask if there's anybody in opposition. You guys think your mother's coming up? Hearing none, I'll close that portion. Before you give your statement, I want to acknowledge that your mother-in-law and father-in-law are watching this on Zoom, folks that I've known for decades upon decades upon decades. You know, I have the greatest respect for your father-in-law, whose office was right across the street from me when I started, and something that'll surprise your kids. I tried my first case against your great-grandfather 40 years ago, okay? Who was, yeah. A very famous lawyer. He happened to be from Everett, but he was really well known. He's probably the best trial lawyer I've ever seen. In the middle of that trial, I objected to something he did because I was told to. I didn't know what I was doing. He kind of had a raspy voice and could be a little loud, and he turned around and yelled at me, "Sit down, son, I'll handle that." Like an idiot, I sat down. Anyway, your statement, please.
Thank you. I'm truly honored to be here today before you. I would like to thank Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll for nominating me to a position as Associate Justice of the District Court. I would like to thank the Governor's Legal Counsel, Paige Scott Reed, and Deputy Legal Counsel, Dara Kesselheim, for their time and advice during this process. I would like to thank Valerie McCarthy and her staff for keeping me on track with everything. I would like to thank the members of the JNC for their efforts and their time during the process. And I would like to thank each of you, the Governor's Council, for taking the time to speak with me before the hearing. I would also like to thank Judge Farrell and Attorney Von Barda, taking the time to testify and be here with me. And I would like to thank my wife and my 4 children, Jillian, Joseph, and Stephen. Juliana is at college and couldn't be here, but I'm sure she's watching. I love you, baby. As you know, I'm sure each of you have seen what I've done in my legal background. So I thought I would begin by telling you a little bit about myself.
Thank you.
I'm an only child, second generation Italian American. My father, Leo, grew up in the West End of Boston and was a truck driver for many years. Eventually, he worked for and retired from the MBTA. My mother grew up in East Boston. She worked as a secretary and eventually became a stay-at-home mom. Both of my parents emphasized the value of education. It was important for them for me to be the first person to go to college in my family and eventually to law school. They wanted to give me the opportunities they never had. In fact, my dad, he left school in 10th grade to work and eventually joined the Marines and serve our country. I grew up in Medford, Mass. I graduated from Arlington Catholic. I went to Suffolk University and then eventually graduating from New England School of Law. My path to the practice of law was a little bit different in that I never knew anyone or had anybody in my family who was an attorney or a lawyer. I was a student athlete. I played basketball for 4 years at Suffolk University, and I viewed that as my path forward. Initially, I thought I would be playing basketball overseas, but I realized that was only going to be temporary. Fortunately for me, during my time at Suffolk, there was a page in the State House, and I met Ray Amaru, wherever Ray is over there. And I was lucky to have Ray and take, his advice and have his advice. Because days before I was leaving for Europe to play basketball, Ray and my mother decided they had a different path for me, and that was law school. So literally 2 days before I was scheduled to leave, Ray and my mother decided that law school was going to be the case, and I had to tell them that I wasn't going to Europe. During my time at New England Law, I was fortunate enough to meet my future wife, Gina, and try my first case as a 303 student. I knew then it was the right decision and the great direction for my life. Being in the courtroom was like playing basketball in some respects. Everyone's watching, and I needed to work hard and practice in order to be recognized as somebody that's the top of your game. Right after graduating from law school, I ended up in a small firm in East Boston, and I learned from some really good lawyers. But after a few years, it was time to go and establish my own practice. And with the support of my father-in-law, Alfred Faris, who brought me to Everett and has been a great mentor for me for many years, he helped me set up a solo practice. And as a solo practitioner in a small community, I quickly learned that sometimes clients become friends and sometimes friends become clients. But no matter what, we work the same on each and every case. You have to represent people vigorously, but with integrity. I learned that your word is your bond, and when you shake someone's hand, you need to make every effort to complete what you set out to do. Over the years, I've done my best to give back to the community and to the practice of law. Even before my kids could pick up a basketball, I was coaching basketball, volunteering my time to youth sports. I always felt the connection with both the families and the youth, that through sports, it was very important. At some point, I would always spend date night with my wife at the Roxbury Boys Club. We would spend a lot of time, or some local gym, and I'd be doing what I loved. I'd be coaching or playing, and she'd be sitting there with me. I did the same. I had a passion for the law. I've been fortunate to represent individuals from all walks of life, help people navigate the difficult times. I also try to help them figure out how to get them on track, and help them handle the issues that they have at hand. Whether it is a criminal matter, a civil matter, or some other matter handled by the district court, we all see litigants at their lowest point. So I would always try to use what I've learned in my life and in the law to help them navigate through those tough times. It's not uncommon in my regular practice to deal with people that have had some financial issues or some mental health issues or substance abuse issues. But in those times, I always needed to be their lawyer, but also have empathy in order to help guide them onto a better path. As an attorney practicing in the district court, I always felt as though I was only able to help one single person every day with whatever they were facing. As a judge, I would have the ability to help so many more on a daily basis. I have been fortunate to represent a diverse group of clients from so many backgrounds. I hope to bring those experiences to the bench. Each day I get up with the motivation to help and understand the issues my clients are facing. I would like to bring to the bench the same empathy and compassion I have for my clients now. I want to provide people the opportunity for help, not always punishment. As an associate justice of the district court, I would strive to assist with the problems and challenges that litigants encounter that brought them before the court, still while balancing public interest. My legal career would not be where it is today without the advice of some excellent mentors. I've been blessed with mentors that have helped me guide me through my practice and my career. People like Judge Farrell, attorneys Phil Boncory and attorney Al Faris. There are countless other judges and other attorneys in my career who have taken the time to encourage me when I've done well, but also provide constructive criticism to push me to improve my advocacy. Through those mentors, I understood why they called it the practice of law. I was always striving to improve my advocacy skills, but also to be a better individual. As you heard from Lawrence, and Lawrence was one of several interns that I've had the good fortune of having in my office, and I've had the opportunity to mentor. There's no greater reward than to see a law student or a young lawyer succeed in the practice of law, knowing I made even a small part in their practice moving forward in their successes. To me, if confirmed, this is the next step to helping people in the court and to serve the Commonwealth. I want to be a role model for my children, a mentor in the light of those who mentored me, and a judge that helps raise the bar of our profession. I thank you for having me here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilor DiPaolo.
Thank you. Good morning. We had a good conversation, and you have a lot of advocates, and the last is Councilor Kennedy, who's celebrated you for quite a while now. So I just wanted to touch on two things we talked about. One is, in your application, when asked about the greatest challenge confronting the court, you wrote that the greatest challenge is the consistency of dealing with the opioid crisis, and we talked a little about that. Could you say what you mean about the consistency and how we deal with it?
Sure. I mean, and one issue is that not everybody is treated the same, and that's the consistency piece. And the problem that we have with it is that we find people don't always get the help that they need. Some people get it, some people don't. And what I find is that they get back into a circle, or there's no way to get out of the circle. But it's not for everybody. It's usually for the poorer people, or people that can't find what they need, the services they need. And unfortunately, you get into that circle or that system and you can't get your way out. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to break that cycle in order to help everyone, not just the more fortunate people.
And so many things play a part in that, but what is the discretion of a district court judge to try to move things in the right direction?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I don't have that ability to say what their discretion is yet. But I think it's really important to understand the background of each individual. I think I shared with you that I had a case recently where a young lady was incarcerated for having a dirty urine. And unfortunately, the judge ordered her into a program, to the WIT program, but they couldn't get her into the program. So she was almost 2 months in, sitting in jail without the service that she needs. She didn't need incarceration. She needed help. And because of our system, she wasn't able to get into the program that she needed.
One thing we did talk about was a judge's discretion in balancing public safety and personal liberty. And we talked a little bit about moments when, for example, a judge could push to have a 58A hearing, for example. What's your perspective on that if you were to take the bench?
Yeah, as I said, and I think I stand by that your liberty is the most important thing that you have. It's the most important thing that we all have, because it affects every part of your life, whether it be your job, your home, your family. And I believe that your liberty to be taken away on a 58A without sufficient background is very difficult. And I think pushing people to handle those cases without just a continuance is important. And I think, in my opinion, if we're going to go forward, we need to be prepared to go forward before I take somebody's liberty away.
I'm glad to hear that perspective. I have a commitment to kind of pragmatism and compassion as a potential judge. So I actually look forward to supporting you next week when we vote.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Kennedy.
Councilor Jacobs.
I will echo that you have a very, very strong supporter here in Councilor Kennedy. I had several calls underscoring just how enthusiastically he supports you, and how excited he is for you to be here today and looking for our support in your compliment. I also want to say I appreciate you came out. We met out in Lee and had a really great conversation, and it was a pleasure to get to meet you in person at that point. And the conversation we had was really validating of all the things that Councilor Kennedy had shared about who you are and why you'll be fantastic. I actually want to read a quote from your application that I talked about with you at the time, but I think I love the quote, but I also think it just underscores how you approached every aspect of the conversation we had and the different issues that we explored. So your quote, it's under the section of the application where it talks about what makes for a good judge, what are the attributes that make for a good judge. And one of the attributes you highlighted is humility and respect for all people. And the quote itself is, after you've talked about a lot of things, but sometimes the ability to be heard is more important than the results, and patience is required. And I value that. I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little more about that, but I think that goes to the heart of when our justice system can be most effective, in my view. So I just would like to give you the chance to talk more about that.
So I've found in most of my years that it's not always about the result of the case. And that, I think, is what we don't always realize. Sometimes it's a litigant that's just having had time and needs to tell their story to someone, whether it be a self-represented litigant or whether it's somebody represented or somebody that I've represented, it's not always about the wins and losses. It's sometimes just about having to tell your story. And I've had a number of people tell me, you know what, I appreciate what you did. I don't feel bad that I didn't win, but at least I got to tell my story and say what my piece was. And I think sometimes you have to be patient enough to listen and understand it's not always going to go in someone's favor, but I really believe allowing the opportunity of a litigant to tell their story and being patient with them is very important, especially in the district court.
There's many things I could ask you about, but in the interest of being brief, which I know your counsel very much appreciates, I have no further questions for you today.
Thank you. Councilor Ferrara. Thank you. Pleasure to meet you. I haven't heard your name ever. Except for the last like several years, every single week. Leo Fama needs to be on the bench. By my friend over here. So we had a nice chat. You're gonna make a great judge. And you definitely have my support next week. So congratulations, you made it to the end.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Councilor Devaney.
Oh, thank you. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You got here. First of all, I'm sorry this was so rushed. I know there would have been a lot more people calling and sending letters if they knew, but it was only 6 days. So I thank you, and I thank you for taking the time to meet with me. It wasn't easy. I love your age. I love what you're bringing to life experience to the bench, and that's important. Pro bono. Don't see body rolls. A lot of body rolls don't pro bono. You have. Tell me, in your pro bono work, is there one that stands out?
Yes. So my favorite story, not because of the result, but because of the outcome and because of where this person is. I had my son was playing basketball at St. Mary's, and one of his teammates was, for lack of a better word, excluded by the MIAA from playing basketball. And it really wasn't about basketball. There were some derogatory things said about him, and he was excluded. So my son had asked me what and I said, of course. And I really didn't have a lot of experience at the time with MIAA cases and understanding it. So I had to really research and do a lot of work. But the ultimate crux of it was, this was a family that came here. His family was from Nigeria. This young man was very, very smart, very intelligent. And his dad said to me, I don't care if he plays basketball. This is about school. But the young man really was having the struggles of the stigma that went along with him not being able to play. He was having some real complications with that. So we had a hearing. He was able to play that season, which after a bunch of work and an argument in the Superior Court. But more importantly, he didn't play basketball in college. He went to UMass. He graduated with honors. He's now going to be a doctor. He's in a doctorate program. He sends me things all the time from each of his accomplishments, graduating with honors, getting into medical school, all of those things. And I think for me, that was very rewarding because I think I played a big part in that. And it's obvious because he keeps contacting me and he reaches out. And I think that to me was my favorite case on the pro bono end.
I want to tell you that I got a call from Middlesexshire, and I tell you, he almost came through the phone. He was so excited and so proud to tell me his relationship with you. You went to law school, and he said that, you know, your temperament couldn't be better. You're so compassionate and so experienced and so qualified and a good basketball. But, you know, he was so sincere talking about you that it meant a lot. And like I said, few people know you're here today because it came so fast. So I wanted to bring that up to tell you that there's people out there that greatly respect you. And you know, what I like is you have evenly civil and criminal cases. And the other thing is, I served on the Commission on Disabilities for 22 years, and I don't think there's a lot of judges that understand disabilities or people with some kind of mental issues, and you do. And you are, compassionate when they come before you. So I'm going to ask you about that. I wanted to ask you, what was the most serious case you had in a criminal case?
I was not fortunate enough to try a murder case back in late '90s, early 2000s. Actually, it was in the early 2000s, and a young man had killed his wife. And sadly, it was a really eye-opening experience to be on that case, because there's not a person in the room that likes the defense lawyer in that situation. You're trying to advocate for someone who has allegedly at that point murdered someone else, and both sides of the aisle. If you lose, you're the bad guy. If you win, you're the bad guy. There's no winner there. But that was the most serious case that I've been involved in, and it was somebody that I knew. So it was very difficult, a very, very difficult case. We tried for almost 2 weeks.
And on the civil side, you've had quite a range of different cases. Can you tell us about the different ranges?
Right. I mean, fortunately, I've been, as a solo practitioner and learning from small town lawyers, I've done trials as far as small claims all the way up to malpractice claims, and district court, superior court, housing court, probate court. I think I've tried a case in every single court in the Commonwealth. Argued at the SJC, the appeals court. I've been very fortunate throughout my career to do something in every area of the law.
So, has it been 30 years since you've been an attorney?
33 going on 34.
As far as, looking back, what is the most rewarding case that you had, the outcome?
I think I've said, I've been vocal about this one. I've had a case in the last few years with a gentleman that grew up in Charlestown in a tough situation, and he was a career offender, looking at some real time, upwards of 12 years as a career offender, and nobody really listened to him. Nobody really understood him. And when I took him on as a client, and I originally started it as a favor from somebody, I listened to him, and he was a product of his environment. It really wasn't about his bad behavior, and he really needed help more than he needed punishment, more incarceration. I was fortunate to get this case for Judy, who was a very compassionate judge, and he challenged me to put together a plan. You put together the plan that's going to make this young man go on the straight and narrow, that he's going to be in space. And we had hearings and we had testimony on the plan, and he accepted that plan. And fortunately, this young man has gone through the steps. He was at the very end. He's doing great. He never had to go to jail. He's married, he owns a home, he's got children. I mean, that to me was probably the most rewarding.
What is, looking back, what is the most disappointing? You must have had some you lost.
Yeah. I lose, but I know I have. I think when you talk about disappointing, it doesn't always have to be about wins and losses. It's be just, how somebody was prosecuted and they shouldn't have. I had a case, and fortunately I won with a young man who was accused of a very serious crime. From the minute I met him, that day one, he said, "I didn't do this. I never did this." And he was not a citizen, so the ramifications for him were immense. If he loses this case, he's going home. And he was a hardworking businessman with a family, with a child with autism, It was heart-wrenching that he could sit and feel accused of a crime, and he couldn't understand the system. He barely spoke English. So I wasn't disappointed in the outcome. I'm very fortunate to win, but I was disappointed in the way he was handled from the beginning. Nobody listened to him. Nobody understood that the way this was done, but the right result, justice was served.
Do you believe there's racial discrimination in this courts?
I mean, we all have some implicit bias, and that's why we have a jury instruction that deals with it. But I don't think anybody specifically sets out to say, I'm going to discriminate against you or someone else today. I think unfortunately we live in a world where there are people that aren't educated and don't realize some of the challenges that other people have, whether it's substance abuse or disability or the color of their skin. Do I think it happens? I absolutely do. Do I think people deliberately do it within our court system? No, I don't.
I strongly believe there is. When I visit inmates in prison, Black men, and one with life in prison without parole, he wasn't even in the room when his friend stabbed someone to death. I know that rule. It should be changed. How unfair. And I'm thinking, how many Black men are in prison and they don't have an advocate? And that's what I'm concerned about. And, we could have someone sitting there, not you, because I know you're sincere in your background and everything. But I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know what that judge will do. And it's really, it's a big decision, looking at people and thinking they're going to be there, till they're 70. I love your age. I love it because you're bringing all your life experience in 11 years, and you're going to do the job for us. And I couldn't be happier. And I agree with the judge that said that Governor Haley has appointed people to the district court who are qualified. We're not even going to talk about the last administration. This is wonderful, and I couldn't be happier. So, do you think there should be any changes in the district court?
Well, I don't know if I can make those changes, but
Is there a need for something?
I believe there is a lot of need. I think that I've had this conversation with a couple of the councilors that I think, in my opinion, children, between the ages of 18 and 20 deserve a little bit more of a chance, not to be jumbled into the regular district court day to day. I mean, that's not for me to decide. Opinion, those are people that need the benefit of help the rest of their life. And I don't know, I have 4 kids. Everybody makes the right decision.
In 30 years, you've had all kinds of cases, civil and criminal, and every aspect. We couldn't ask for more to go to the district court, and I'm just so pleased. But I did want to add about Peter Katusian. He was in Washington, D.C. this weekend, and he got an award for being the most outstanding sheriff. So we're pretty proud of him in the Middlesex Court and in Massachusetts. So I just wanted to pass that on. But thank you for applying. I know you applied before, and we don't talk about that administration. And they made a lot of mistakes, and we lost a lot of good people. And I want people out there to know, apply again. Because here's an example, we would have lost someone that we're going to be so pleased when you're in the district court. And people get discouraged when they see someone that's appointed and they know it's a political appointment. Not so now. So I just want to make that little political announcement. But thank you for applying again, and we couldn't be more pleased. Thank you.
Lionel.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to commend Councilor Kennedy for scheduling and expediting here. I think we all agree.
It actually was within the rules. It was 8 days from nomination. The rule provides for 7, but thank you for pointing that out.
Councilor Powell and Councilor Jacobson on the rules. But you did a great job.
Thank you.
Schedule. You didn't have to do it, but I know from the rules. but you can get a sense from the outpouring of support that you have here from the councilors. You and I spoke at length on a lot of issues, so I don't have a lot of questions, but just a couple of quick ones. First of all, I love the fact that it's soul package. That's so important. When you think of a sole practitioner, it's tough out there. I mean, you have to worry about the rent, you have to worry about paying for the help if you have any, just paying for the office supplies, it's tough. You know, I asked someone a question about a year or two ago, sitting there, as a nominee like you, I said, what do you do if someone has for continuance? I said, let me give you a hypothetical. Your spouse says, oh, I'm surprised. We're going for you next week. And wow, the nominee goes, well, if so-and-so has a case on, the spouse didn't realize that, I wouldn't give a continuance. Are you kidding me? Kidding me? That's a true story. And then we have 4 lawyers here on the council. One of the councilors, I'm not gonna name who of the 4, was on vacation. You know, these things happen, everyone gives me the right answer, but in reality, hello, and the councilor asked the judge for continuance. And the judge says, well, I'm going to grant the continuance, who else do you have in the office? Get someone else in the office to try the case. The lawyer says, well, the client hired me, and I don't have anyone else in the office. So I don't know all the facts, but it was like, come in tomorrow for, you know, enough is enough. Your take on that?
Yeah, as a solo practitioner, I mean, I juggle the day to day just like you do. And, you know, if my wife called and said I surprised you with a trip, I'd be the first one in front of the judge saying, because I don't know when I'm going to have that opportunity to go or something like that. And I think it's you know, you have to balance life, and that's kind of the most important thing. And I think part of that is, you know, there are going to things that have to come up, and we have to understand that, especially from someone in a small firm or solo. We can't ask them to go and do things above and beyond we wouldn't ask someone else to do. I think that's the question.
Totally great. Now you do criminal work, I don't do criminal, I'm on the personal legal side. You have a case, you have a judge operating on a new district, a new assistant DA, ADA. Oh, it's his first case, you can see he's nervous. Oh, you know. He's doing a pretty good job. Got the element of a public way. Okay, and the facts, there's no question. This person is driving. Do you ask question? You ask it, what, if anything, would you do? Would you say? And the defense attorney closed. Okay, and now the other side's asked, again, I may have not the right terminology. A directed finding not guilty, to prove the elements of crime. What do you do in that situation?
Right. I don't put my thumb on the scale. I call balls and strikes at that point. As a judge, I sit and listen and make that decision. So the evidence is in, I rule on what the evidence is. And if that person didn't put in public way, then the obvious answer is it's a not guilty.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And you heard the question I had, Judge Farrell, he's fantastic. I remember when he came before us a few years, he's a solid 10. I asked him a question about remote hearing cases remotely, you know, obviously not travel, which I think.
I wish that more courts would offer it, as I did what you do and what Councilor Kennedy does. I mean, sometimes I'll get a call and have to be in 2 places at once. And if I have the ability to use Zoom, it's so much easier to just jump on, especially if it's not anything substantive like a case management or a continuance. I know that the BMC now is using Zoom a lot for their case managers trials, and I think that's excellent. I'm an advocate for it.
I agree. I'm a strong believer if the circumstances warrant rehabilitation versus incarceration. Your thoughts?
And that's been my thing from the beginning. As a defense attorney, I think, you know, something that I've always thought of is that we need to help people, punish them. And I know Judge Farrell said it, that cage is not always about being in that cage. Sometimes we have to figure out what people need versus, you know, the punishment that goes along with it. To take somebody's liberty, it's to me one of the biggest threats, to human nature. Well, I believe in more rehabilitation than punishment.
And he gave a very compelling story of the situation with his son. What if you have a case and it's a mandatory minimum jury case and the person's found guilty? But you really feel like, oh, this person, send this person away for whatever, whatever, it's just not right. If you're confirmed by this council, you have a lifetime appointment. In that situation, because there has been a judge that we know of who said my conscience can't follow. Oh, I can't give the mandatory minimum. And that judge, I think, put the person on probation or suspended something short of incarceration. What do you do?
I can't deviate from what the law says. If the law calls for a minimum mandatory sentence, I'm required by law to impose that sentence. I think I'm hoping that, the people before me have given every thought as to what the final consequence is before they actually get to trial. We know that trials happen not because it's the best case in the world, it's because sometimes the facts don't warrant some sort of a resolution. I think the short answer is I don't think I have the benefit of deviating from what the law actually says.
Even though in your heart of hearts, I think the jury made a mistake. Facts didn't warrant us guilty, but it was a jury trial. It wasn't a bench trial. Oh, I feel awful for this person.
That's different. I think that scenario is different because if I don't believe that the facts warranted it, I would find him not guilty. It's different. Yeah, so I can't.
Well, let's assume this, again, I know it's incredible. Let's assume that this new attorney didn't ask for a motion, required finding, or whatever the appropriate motion would be, I don't think. What could you do it? Other than-
I think just lament it, feel bad, because I think there's nothing I can really do to change that, and I wouldn't interrupt, the flow of what the law actually is. It's not my position to do that, as much as I would feel kind of, I guess, maybe bad, but the law is the law, and then unfortunately, in those situations, there's a reason why that happens.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, we had a lengthy conversation. You seem like a decent person. I mean, to me, what's important, you see these people, super educational background, I get it. You seem like a real nice guy, decent person, nice temperament, compassionate. I'm gonna be real happy and honored to support you next week, as Councilor Kennedy has called me on numerous occasions about you, and you were right. He's a top shelf guy.
I'm counseling.
Good enough.
It's pretty good for not being criminal defense, isn't it?
That's it.
The thing that people don't know about Council Ianella is he's a hopeless romantic, and that's the question he asks. I actually really like. It's appropriate that he asked that on Valentine's Day. It's a little.
You may have surprised them.
He's got a secret
Something I don't know.
soft spot. To what everyone else has said, all the attorneys on this council are experts in their field. They're really, really great at it. I'm a public policy person. I used to work as a chaplain with drug addicts and things like that. So I come with a different perspective. But I have to say that I got quite a few calls, unexpected people, frankly, from across the court system who encountered you, who were in great support. And that means a lot because these are people who've watched you throughout your career practice and really were excited that you were applying again. I'm not gonna bemoan this and keep asking you questions. We've asked all the relevant questions that need to be asked. I think you are a great candidate. I'm glad that the governor has nominated you. And I've said to people it was frustrating for me and some others. It was a little bit slow to get going, but the nominees we're getting are outstanding. the level of work that this administration is doing is something that we really haven't seen. I don't know if I've ever seen it in this building. I've seen it in DC, but this is a really high level. And you should be flattered because you're part of, the group that they've looked at and selected. And I truly mean that. It's not, this isn't, what we're experiencing right now isn't what we're used to. It's a really special thing and we're really blessed to have this type of leadership. So, yeah, I will be happy to support you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Everybody else seems to be supporting you. I'm a little on the fence. We're gonna adjourn the hearing. Look forward to vote for you next week, Leah.